Hello everyone, you are listening to the Eiffel Tower podcast. My name is Oliver G, and that's right! Ding ding ding, it's a bonus episode. It's a Thursday episode. I'm in lockdown in Paris. A lot of people around the world are probably in some similar form of lockdown. I thought the least I could do is try and keep some spirits high with an extra episode and a few Paris secrets. So what I've done for this bonus episode is I've repurposed a talk that I gave. So let's rewind a little bit. A lot of you probably know that I wrote a book, and I did a lot of talks around the Alliance Française in the States. I probably did about 50 talks in 50 different cities, and I just talked about the book. And then eventually, on Zoom, of course, online, we can't travel, but I got a email eventually from one of the higher-ups at the Alliance Française, and they said, Oliver, can you do a talk for the whole network, our national group of Alliance Française, hundreds and hundreds of people, but something above and beyond your book, do a presentation. I said, what about 5 Secrets of Paris? And they said, that's perfect. That's what you're going to hear today, is my talk, The 5 Secrets of Paris, and how I found them, which is kind of the most interesting bit, if you ask me. So I did it for the Alliance Française, hundreds of people watched it, and then I redid it more recently for the Metropolitan Club of San Francisco. And for that second show, I put my mic in front of me and recorded it, and so that's what you're about to hear. Now, a few notes before we get started. In the talk, there was a PowerPoint presentation going. You don't need it. I described the pictures, but if you really want to see it, I made a new post. So if you go to the eiffeltower.com/secrets, you'll see all the pictures as well. But even better still than that, you guys probably have heard of me talking about scrolls before, member scrolls. Every episode, with the help of my brother Eddie, who's a graphic designer, we collect every single little detail, every link, further reading, YouTube videos that are related, pictures, and we put it in a beautiful scroll. I wouldn't call it a PDF. It is a PDF. I'd call it a scroll, and they're only available for Patreon supporters, but this time I'm making it available for free. So you go on the eiffeltower.com/secrets, and there'll be a link. It says click to download. Get a look at that scroll for all the addresses. The reason I say that at the start, I don't want you sitting there taking notes during this episode about these secret gardens and secret cafes, restaurants, viewpoints, all that stuff. I want you to enjoy the episode. Go and check it out later. So, enjoy the episode. Hang around at the end for a couple of emails that I'm going to read out that came in this week. If you enjoy this presentation kind of episode, maybe you want me to perform it or something similar for your group. If you can get people together, I'll jump on Zoom for you. And if you really like it, why not jump on as a Patreon supporter and get these kind of beautiful scrolls every single Sunday? That'll do from me. Let's get into it. Let's begin. The idea is, for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to share with you guys 5 Paris secrets, but more importantly, I think I'm going to share with you how I found them, right? Because I hate to be so crude, but I think any idiot can put together a list of 5 Paris secrets. You could probably find them online, but what I'm going to do is tell you how I discovered them, and as we go, they're going to get progressively more secretive and difficult to find. So I will be flabbergasted if any of you have been to all 5 of these. In fact, if any of you have even heard of all 5 of these, you win. You win the evening, okay? So we'll be keeping score. I'm going to see who's the most secret savvy out of all of you. But as I said, starting easy, stories behind them. And the team here, they've got pictures that they're going to put up if there's something specific that I mention. Okay, are we ready to go? A few nods, a few waves. Let's go. Oh, look at everybody going crazy. That's what I like to see. Okay. So the first of the Paris secrets is, I start with the story behind it. As Josette mentioned at the beginning, I'm a podcaster. Just out of interest, can you guys wave your hands if you know who I am and you've listened to my show before, just so I know how much I'm repeating? Oh, great. Not many of you. That's my kind of crowd. So I'm a podcaster. I tell stories about Paris. I interview interesting people, the kind of people that are, I like to say, who are making the City of Lights shine. And I'm not afraid to run up to someone in the street who I think I might recognize to try and get them on the show, all in the hopes of making a better podcast episode. And that's how the first secret came about. I was walking down one of the streets in Pigalle, and I looked across the road, and I saw what looked to me to be a French supermodel whose name is Caroline de Maigret. Well, I looked across the road, I said, that's the supermodel. She's the ambassador of Chanel, whatever that means. I've seen her on billboards around town, and I happen to have bought her book. Maybe you guys know it, How to Be Parisian Wherever You Are, as a gift from my wife. So I was in her world a little bit, and I saw her across the street from me. And I said to my wife, I'm sorry, I've got to chase her down. And I crossed over and I said, excuse me, you're Caroline de Maigret, right? And she was very charming. She said yes. And I said, look, I don't know, do you ever do podcast interviews with Australian podcasters? And I don't know why I said that, but I said whatever came into my mind. And she said, sure, I'll do an interview with you, but I'm going to be honest, I'm really busy. The only way this is going to happen is if we sit down at a cafe and do it right now. The nearest cafe, you got half an hour. Are you ready? You can record it on your phone. And I said, that sounds good to me. Let's do it. So we walked about 100 yards, and I did yards instead of meters because I know you guys are all in San Francisco there. So we went about 100 yards, and meanwhile I'm thinking, what's the name of her book again? What? I'm trying to get all my questions ready. And we sat down, and she was really charming. It was a fun episode. And halfway through the episode, she said to me, I asked her something along the lines of, can you recommend a museum to me in the area? Something like that. And she said, the Musée de la Vie Romantique. And I didn't pay it much attention, partly because I was stressed. The waiter was standing there serving us drinks. I didn't want to get the sound of the espresso machine in the background. I didn't really think about it, but it stuck in the back of my head. And she painted a really lovely picture of it. And I'd always thought to find it, as I usually do with guest tips on the show. One day, and now's a good time to get that first slide up, whoever is in charge of the slides here. One day I was walking along, here, look at that. One day I was walking along, oh no, I can see the other slides as well. Oh well. I was walking along this very street, Rue, you'd say Henner in English, I suppose. Henner, but NR perhaps. And I saw this, I came from quite far back, and I approached the image that you guys can see, or if you're not looking, it's these two buildings side by side with a beautiful big tree growing right between the buildings. And I saw this alleyway, and I thought, what could that be? I need to go down that alleyway and explore it. And as I approached the entrance, you can see on the left there's one of those plaques, you might say, with information. And there's a sign that says, believe it or not, the Musée de la Vie Romantique, the Museum of Romantic, I guess life would be the English translation, right? So we went in there with my wife, and we checked it out. Now the museum is pretty cool. It's I think it's 18th, 19th century art, French Romanticism kind of stuff. But it wasn't that captured me. It was the tea garden, which is my secret for secret number one. If we go to the next slide, the tea garden. Look at this out the back. So this is this is Central Pigalle, which, if you've been to Paris, if you've been to Pigalle, noisy, narrow streets, cluttered, chaotic, and then you just go through that little alleyway. And this picture's unusual because I've been there probably 5 or 6 times. I've never seen this many people there. It's just hidden away. No one seems to know about it, and it's really charming. I think I got another angle on the next slide, but just these sort of these metal chairs out in the garden with the greenhouse glass cafe on the inside. It's just really beautiful. It's this perfect little oasis away from Pigalle and all the hustle and bustle. Now, I'd love to say that the drinks are delicious there, but I'm going to be honest with you guys. The last time I was there, I had a hot chocolate, and it was disgusting. It was a disgusting hot chocolate. So I recommend you go to check out the Escape, but I do not recommend you buy an overpriced, disgusting hot chocolate. But as is sometimes the case in Paris, the drinks are overpriced, but it's worth it. I'm really curious. A few more faces popping up on the video. This is more fun. Hello, everybody. Now, this is where it becomes a bit of fun. Out of the people who I can see, if you have been to that cafe, can you give me a wave? Okay, none. This is a great score. If you've heard of it, can you give me a wave? Sandra is the only one on a score of 1, and that was the easiest secret. Guys, this is gonna be a wild 45 minutes if we've only got a score of 1 on having heard of the first one. But Sandra, you're the current MVP. Now, as we talk, by the way, I'm quite comfortable with reading the comments as we go. If you guys really have no idea who I am and what I do, besides podcasting, I do a lot of live videos where I walk around the streets of Paris. You've all heard of a talk show before, right? I do it while walking. I call it a walk show, and I do it live. So I walk around the streets with a guest. So for example, let's say Sandra, who's our current Paris expert, was my guest on the podcast this week. I might say Sandra's going to show us her favorite secrets of Paris in a video next week, and we go and do it. So I'm very comfortable with reading comments as they come through, and I'll answer any of your questions. But I think it's time for me to get on to story number 2 that might be behind secret number 2. I'm just looking at my list so I can remember. Oh yes, okay, this is a fun one too. So the story behind this one, before we get any of the pictures up, is I don't always chase guests on the street. Sometimes as the show grows, people contact me and they say, hey, I'd love to be on your show. I've got a story to tell. And more often than not, they're just trying to sell something. Maybe they've got some product or whatever, and it's usually the email's not that interesting, but sometimes they're really intriguing indeed. Like David Smith, who's a British guy, young guy, young, he's probably the same age as me, maybe young, I don't know. And he says, look, I'm a courier. I cycle around Paris delivering mail. Now, I got nothing to sell. I haven't written any books. I don't have any, merchandise or anything, but I've cycled on every single street of Paris, and I know it like the back of my hand. I'm confident that I know all the streets, and I think we could have a great chat. And I said, David, you are welcome in the studio. Let's do it. And so he comes on the show. Lovely guy. We had this chat talking about all over Paris and what he's seeing. And halfway through that episode, he mentioned, and I personally, as I remember it, he didn't sell it as well as I'm going to sell it to you, and the pictures are going to show. But he told me he had to make a delivery to a bank that's near the Printemps department store. And he said he went in there and he was floored because it was so beautiful. And I think he went as far as to say it was a bit like Harry Potter, if you've seen Harry Potter, the Gringotts Bank, like that kind of magical, beautiful bank. And he sort of said it like that, and maybe I interrupted him, maybe he moved on, but it stuck in the back of my head, like the story with the model. I thought, well, one day I'll go and check that out. What happened is one day in fact, my wife, who's a shoe designer, had her shoes in Printemps, and she had to go in there for a meeting. And I was like, you know what, this allegedly fantastic bank is really close. I've got to go and explore it. And so the bank, before we get to the next slide, the bank is called the Société Générale, and it's the headquarters of it on that big boulevard Haussmann. And I walked through the doors and I was gobsmacked. It was a thing of sheer beauty. It was the kind of thing that was like, sometimes you go to a museum or something in Paris that's just so stunning that you forget about the artwork because the museum itself is so good. This is a masterpiece, It's featured in like historic monuments and all that kind of stuff. But you're not allowed to take photos there. But luckily for all of us, the website had a photo or two which I've stolen for this purpose. Can we have the next slide so you can see what I'm talking about? Okay, this is from their site. This is a collection of all their pictures. So on the left, there's this picture of this incredible domed glass ceiling, and it feels a bit like a train station, actually. There's a lot of clocks. They haven't changed really anything. The computers that the bank tellers are using are quite hidden as well. People are going in there. This is a place where people go to do their daily banking. Like, I don't know. I've never been to... Well, I have been to San Francisco, but I don't remember seeing this kind of stuff over there. And walking through it, you just, like the floor there, you see is these tiny, beautiful golden mosaic patterns. Just really stunning. But the sort of double part of the secret is, and what my friend David didn't mention to me, is if you go downstairs, they have a fully functioning, what would you call it, a safe, with a safe door that has to be as big as an elephant, made of what looks to me to be gold. And I think we have a picture of it in the next slide that I can show you, if we can get to that. And that, oh no, there's another interior shot for you. You get the image. You don't really see the computers there. There's an image of what it looks like inside. But the next slide with the golden door, yes. Look, oh, I can see everyone's mouth drop. You're as gobsmacked. Mary, I think you're acting a bit there. You said it after I made the comment. No, she's not acting. But this is down just right there. And anyone can go in there. And I went and saw it. I mean, you can't get through the gated door there, but anyone off the street can walk in, go down and take a look at this. And I was there like a kid in a candy store looking through those that metal gate. And someone came out and she asked me, do you want to open a bank account with us? I was like, no, I think this is out of my budget. This feels like the kind of place that, like a prince would keep their money. Anyway, you can look around. You can't take pictures unless you are extremely talented at being surreptitious, which I'm not going to comment on whether I am or not. Definitely not in public anyway. But it's just one of those beautiful things that is, for me, as beautiful or as interesting as pretty much, more of the 130 museums in Paris, according to Peter's comment just there. 130 museums in Paris. I think this should be the 131st. So there you go. Let's go back to the view of everybody. I want to see how many people have been inside this place. We have Chris. Chris is waving. Pretty good, Chris. You get a point. Anybody else has heard of it? Oh, well, look at this. No one. Okay. The scores are pretty low, and I'm happy about that. I'd like to take a pause before we get onto the third secret and story, because I realize I didn't mention there's no need for anyone to scribble down the names or the notes or the pictures, because I've done it in great detail. And I should have said this at the start, because I feel probably some people have been taking notes. One of the ways, and I'd love to talk about the book that I wrote at some point too, but in my life in 30 seconds, and the way I've turned a hobby into a job, is the podcast is free. Anyone can listen to it. It goes out every week. And look at Teresa's car. We can see through the roof, through the ceiling of your car. Amazing. As she's driving. The podcast is free to listen to. And the way that I've monetized it and turned it from a hobby into a job is there are people who are members. And what happens when you're a member, it's just like Netflix. You sign up, and in return you get loads of extra bonuses. And for this chat that we're doing right now, I'm going to send to you all the bonus that I usually do for the podcast just for free, which has all the information and a lot more. Links to all the episodes I talk about, books that I mention, everything. And I do that for every episode. So just so you know, that's how I do this as a career. But the point of that was you don't need to write down notes, because I've got it all for you. I've got you covered, maps, everything. Where were we up to? 3, and everyone's on a score of collective score of 2. So I'm winning, I think, at the moment. Story number 3. Now let me just check my notes so I do them in order. Oh, this one is very dear to me. This is about a secret park. But before I tell you which one it is, I'll tell you the story behind it, because this is also a story that it's extremely dear to me. We rewind for a second, and I explained to you that when it comes to city walls in Europe, but especially France, I love them. The old city walls that used to surround, like medieval city walls. And as far as I'm concerned, there are 3 types of medieval city walls around France. There's the ones that are perfectly preserved. So if you guys have heard of or maybe been to towns like Saint-Malo, Saint-Malo, Carcassonne is another really good one, where you can go down and you see these beautiful walls. You can walk along the ramparts. There's those types. There's plenty of them. But there are also cities where they used to have a city wall and they totally got rid of it. They used it to build the buildings as the city expanded, typically beyond the city wall. Those ones are my least favorite. Don't really care. I don't really care to see the maps of where a city wall used to be. It's not so interesting. But my favorite of all the 3 is what's happened in Paris, which is where a city wall has been swallowed up by the city. And by that I mean they didn't knock it all down and use it to keep building, and they definitely didn't preserve it perfectly, of course. But what they did is they might have used a whole chunk of it to build a house. That could be the back wall of a house, right? The towers, and there were I can't remember the number now. This is years ago, but I feel like there were 70 towers. I'm pretty sure someone's gonna write into me and tell me, but I think it was about 70 towers, and some of them are preserved perfectly in Paris. You can find them in restaurants. You can find them. I know a guy that has an office in one of them. There's about 5 or 6 of them left. But the wall itself, what I love about it, is you can track down the vestiges of it. You can find parts to see exactly what Paris would look like in 1190 when they were built. So this is King Philippe Auguste for you history. I don't want to say history nerds. because that would be calling myself a nerd as well, right? For you history buffs, there you go. The 1190 wall, you can find bits of it. And where we get into the secret is one day for an episode, I decided to try and track down all the remaining parts of this city wall. And the way I did it is I got an old city map and I laid it over a current city map to try and figure out if I could retrace the path. And it was kind of a lot harder than you might think because there's not much of it and the whole city's sort of squashed it, so you don't really know where to look. But me and a couple of friends followed. It felt like it wasn't a race against time, but it kind of felt like it was. We were trying to do it all in one day, walking along. It was kind of, if you imagine the Da Vinci Code on a budget of 0. That's what we were doing. And we're tracking down, we're starting at the basketball court. You guys who know my story a little bit and have read my book Paris on Air know that I play basketball next to the longest chunk of this Philippe Auguste wall. So that's where we started. I can talk about that later, but we followed the path of this wall all the way around until we got to a beautiful street called Rue de Rosiers in the Jewish quarter in the Marais that I'm sure, yeah, people are nodding, I'm sure you guys know about that. And I walked down that, like it seems like, I don't know, 100 times, and I never noticed that if you're heading to the west on your right hand side, so number 10 Rue de Rosiers, there's a little park. And this park is, if you blink, you'll miss it, right? You have to sort of really be looking out for it, I think, to find it. And if we get to the next slide, you'll see what it looks like from the back end of it. Can you see that? So the entrance, what we're looking at is this beautiful garden and blue sky. This garden is maintained by the residents, but to the direct back of where we're looking, behind that person in orange, is the entrance. And to the right of that person in orange is the wall. So that's how I came in there to find this wall. But even better still, this is where I like it even better. If you take a turn to the right in this picture, and I think if we go to the next picture, you might be able to see it. This is the entrance that we came in. So this is the opposite from what we just looked at, and that's the Philippe Auguste wall that I was talking about, right there in the middle, with the tower coming up to the left that you can walk inside of. And then the next picture, I think, is if we turn directly left. Yes, here it is. This has got to be one of the most quietest parks in the whole of Paris. It's in the central Marais, which you all know is teeming with life and tourists usually. I mean, not right now, but usually. And every time I've ever gone in here, I take family, friends, sometimes I do tours and stuff. It's always like this picture, just totally empty, just a breath of fresh air. And often when I take people in there, I whisper to them and I say, how often is it that you can whisper in central Paris and still be heard? And I just think it's a kind of neat little bit of magic. So there you go. Yeah, it's right behind the falafel shop on Rue de Rosiers. In fact, it's right behind it. So there's always a queue there, people lining up for food. No one goes in here to eat it, as far as I've seen. So there you go. If I could see everyone's faces again, let's see how we're feeling about that one. Who's been there into the far edge of the park? 2. Chris, again, leading the charge. Peter joins the scoring rank. Who's heard about that place? Anyone heard about it? I thought I saw someone put their hand up, but it was me. I'm still not used to Zoom after doing this so many times. Okay, so what also was fun about it is a Paris author I really like, David Downey, who's become a friend of mine, something of a mentor perhaps, really lovely guy. And when I met him for the first time, I called him. I ended up on the phone to schedule a meeting, which is kind of rare these days, it's all email. And I said, let's do the interview outside somewhere, because since I did that episode with Caroline de Maigret, with the noise of the espresso machine and everything, I rarely use the studio, try and capture a bit of Paris sound. So I said, oh David, I'd love to meet you outside. He said, do you know the park in the Marais behind the Philippe Auguste wall? And I said, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. He said, we'll meet under the, I can't believe I forgot the type of tree that it is. The fig tree. He said, we'll meet under the fig tree. And I said, I know exactly where you're talking about. I'll see you at 2. And I just love the fact that the choice of his of where to meet was under a fig tree in a park like that. So there you go. There's 3. Feeling pretty good about my secrets at the moment. Feeling like you guys are entertained because there's smiles. So we're all winning so far. Anyone not entertained? Any complaints? I'll take a complaint. No? Any questions? Do you do tours? Says Amy. I think I randomly answered that. I used to do it when I was, and I talk about this in the book, which hopefully we'll talk about at the end, when I was really struggling. So I came here to be a journalist in Paris, and I was like a proper serious journalist. I came here to cover horrible stories, terror attacks, and that kind of stuff. And it just wasn't for me. I'm quite lighthearted. I'm not a very serious guy, and it just didn't. After a while, it didn't seem right. And I started a podcast on the side. And the people who know the podcast, you already know this story, but it grew quite quickly. And then, honestly, people started recognizing my voice. And it happened like several times when I'd order a coffee in English, like at one of these expat cafes or whatever. So I just quit my job as a journalist and tried to make it as a podcaster. And I was really broke. I was so broke. By choice, don't get me wrong. But in those days, I used to do tours for anyone who'd want to, you know? Anyone that messaged me, I'd do it almost at any price. Because I was struggling. But now, obviously now I don't do them because Paris is in lockdown. But I do them less and less, to be honest. In fact, there's plenty of really good tour guides in Paris that I'd recommend. For me, all you have to do is listen to the podcast. Hey, maybe become a Patreon member if you really like it. Hey, maybe buy the book. Look, I'm not going to push anything. Let's get on to secret number 4. What are we up to? Number 4. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'll be very surprised if anyone knows this one. Before we get to the picture, as usual, it's a story. I like secrets, as you've gathered, and my friends know this too now. So they like to share their secrets with me. And one day, it was my birthday, and we'd been at a nice bar in the Marais with some friends, and it was getting late, and it was time to go home. And so my wife and I were ready to leave, and a friend of ours, Shelley, who's actually featured, she's in my book for those of you who've read it. She's the one who recommended that we rent a chateau for my 30th birthday party, which we did. We partied like it was $13.99. It was amazing, but that's a different story. Shelley knows me well, and she said, oh look, I'm going the same way, maybe we will walk the same direction. I said, great, let's do it. So we're heading home, end of the birthday, and we're near the Place de la République, which I'm sure you all know, in sort of central Paris. And we got going down a really quiet street. It's probably about midnight, and we pass like a corner shop, just a really typical corner shop. And Shelley goes, oh, do you guys mind? I just need to grab some stuff. No, Shelley, let's do it. So we're in there, and she's sort of shopping around. It's very small. I mean, really small, like the size of a Paris apartment. And she said, Oliver, she said, can you grab me some of... Now, I'm going to do a bit of a spoiler alert here. So if you really don't want to find out, if you want to find the secret for yourself, don't listen for the next 30 seconds, okay? But she said to me, Oliver, can you grab me some of that couscous? Or do you say couscous in America, perhaps? She said, grab me some of that couscous. I said, all right. And I grabbed this box of couscous. And as I take it off the wall, there's this click. And the whole wall swings open. And I was flabbergasted, right? Did I say flabbergasted before? I was shell-shocked. I looked in. There's this dark entry to this really beautiful speakeasy cocktail bar that I'd never heard of. It was brand new, and we went in there, and it was lovely. It was really dimly lit, I guess because there were no windows, but it had this sort of, I guess, North African vibe with sort of mint tea cocktails, that kind of feeling, sitting low on the ground. And I guess we should show a picture. I think I've got a picture of what it looks like when you're in there. If we can pop that one up. Yeah, there it is. So this guy, he works in the shop. You can actually buy stuff, and people do. I know, because I bought a Mars bar on the way out. But he's also like the bouncer. So if there are too many people or if someone needs to be kicked out, that's his job. And in fact, you can see over his right shoulder all the couscous along the wall. So there's prices on everything, you can buy it. And look, that's kind of like a North African food as well, so maybe there's a theme there. But it was just a really wonderful experience, and Shelley got the last laugh on the birthday with that incredible surprise. And there are some pictures of the interior of it on the scroll that you guys are all gonna get at the end of this chat. But let me see everybody's face again. Now this will knock me over if anyone's been in there. Come on, I'm looking at you, Chris, this time. Who's been inside this place? Who's heard of it? No, okay, I knew it. I told you they're gonna get harder. Therese, driving? You can nod your head if you want. No, not at all. Josette? No, not yet. Okay, maybe when you guys all come to Paris next, we can all go together. Who knows? Oh yeah, thumbs up. Cool, let's do it. Time for the fifth secret before we jump into some Q&As. This one perplexed me that no one knew about it. And it's the one that I found the most recently, so I saved it to last. It is, I'll tell the story behind it. So when the last lockdown finished, so this is we're in Paris' second lockdown right now. When the last one finished in the spring, I can rewind further. I'm sitting right now in a very small apartment in Montmartre. I can see most of your houses behind you. All the rooms that you're in, all of them are bigger than my entire apartment. Absolutely. Especially yours, Barbara. That looks really nice. But what happened was at the end of the lockdown, spending it in this tiny place, we got a call from a company called Paris Perfect, and they do apartment rentals, sort of luxury apartment rentals for people coming from abroad. And because of the lockdown and because no tourists were really in Paris, they said, look, our apartments are empty. We'd love you to come and just stay in one. And we were like, what's the catch? They said, no catch. We love what you did. We'd love it if you promoted the 7th arrondissement a little bit instead of talking about Montmartre all the time. And we said, all right, we're on the next scooter over. I drive a scooter. I forget that a lot of you guys don't know any of my background here. So we scooted down and we ended up staying 2 months because the tourists just stopped coming. And we spent 2 months in an incredible apartment with, it was a stone's throw from the Eiffel Tower. So what that meant is we spent 2 months exploring the 7th district, which if you don't know is typically the most touristy, the most beautiful, Eiffel Tower and Musée d'Orsay and all that stuff, but with absolutely no tourists. Just a few confused Parisians wondering where everybody was. So we were walking around there, and this is how we get to the secret, is we passed a hotel called I think it's called the Pullman Hotel, which is actually not in the 7th, it's just across in the next district over, which I guess would be, what would that be, the 15th, I guess? Yeah, it's the 15th. So we're walking past this, and I'd seen it before. It's near the Australian ambassador's residence. I'm Australian, by the way, so I'd been in the area. And I went in there and I was feeling kind of cheeky, and I said to the guy, what's your occupancy at the moment? He's like 10%. I was like, wow, I bet it'd be easy to get a really beautiful room really cheaply right now. And he's like, yeah, good try. It's not. It's still really expensive. He saw right through my bluff. And I was like, well, maybe if a room is empty, I could go to the top floor and see the view of the Eiffel Tower. And he said, yeah, no need to do that. Why don't you just go to the bar on the top floor? I was like, there's a bar on the top floor? And he's like, yeah. Didn't you know? I was like, no, I didn't know. There's no sign out the front. I lived in Paris for 6 years, never heard anything about it. What are you talking about? He goes, oh, no, go up. You don't need to be a guest or anything. I was like, are you kidding? So we went into the elevator up to the 10th or 20th floor, whatever it was, probably somewhere between the two. We walked along this long corridor, and really incredibly, it just opens up. So it's not a rooftop terrace, but it's the whole top floor, but the ceiling is made of glass. So as you step into this this bar, I've got the picture. The next slide is perfect. As you step into the bar, it opens up and the Eiffel Tower is in front of you like you've never seen before. So if we can have the next slide, you'll see it. It's right there. You see it basically from the bottom of the Eiffel Tower to the very top. This isn't a picture I took. I think I took it from the site, because when I went up there, it was really empty because it was just Parisians. And Parisians don't like paying super expensive drinks when they know where all the cheaper places are. But this was astonishing. Just this beautiful view. But more than that, there was a balcony, so you could walk around and you could, explore. In fact, the next picture, I think, shows what the view is like on the actual balcony. If we switch that. And in that, yeah, there you go. So that you feel like you're looking down on the Eiffel Tower. For anyone listening who can't see the picture, we're higher than all these beautiful Haussmannian buildings. We're above their rooftop level, and you can see the Eiffel Tower over the top of one block of apartments. And I put up a picture. In fact, this is my picture, and I think I put this on Instagram or Facebook or something. And you wouldn't believe how many messages I got from Parisians and from friends who live here and who've lived here for many years, who said, where on earth is that? How have I never heard of that? And as far as I'm concerned, the Pullman Hotel is doing either a terrible job of promoting something that I feel they should be shouting from the rooftops, if you'll excuse the pun. But I don't know, maybe they want to keep it secret. I don't know how that is running a business, but you won't find any signs for it. I don't think you'll find it on any of these blogs telling things to do in Paris, because I really feel like a lot of people don't know about it. And that sounds like maybe I'm being a bit arrogant, but I've put it out there and everybody said it was new to them. So that's the final secret. I found it by myself, this one. I didn't rely on the lovely guests I usually have on the podcast. But if we can get rid of that beautiful picture and I can see everybody's faces, who has been up on that balcony? Anyone? Chris? Chris? No? Not even? It felt like you put your hand up. No one. No one's been there. Okay, great. That is an example of a true Paris secret then. I think I stumped most of you most of the time. But there you go. They're my 5 secrets, all found through the Earful Tower podcast. And I think we'll switch over to Q&A, where you can ask me anything about the secrets or anything you want. And I'll just say, thanks for listening so far. I've really appreciated sharing the secrets. Oh, look at that, a round of applause. Oh, thank you very much. Let's see what questions that you have. Oh, what a wonderful round of applause. People were actually clapping. Of course, we added that sound in post-production. Thank you, Eddie. I just thought I'd read a couple of emails before we finish. Firstly, this one came in from Ida Van Haren. It might be Ida. I'm going to go with Ida, though. And she says, "Hi, Oliver. Last Wednesday, I had the pleasure of tuning in for your American Library talk where you interviewed yourself so splendidly." Thanks, Ida. That was also a podcast episode. "You spoke so enthusiastically about your podcast on my playlist now." Oh, great. Maybe you're listening now. "And the books. I'd like to order them both, Paris on Air and Kylie the Crocodile. You mentioned, or perhaps you were joking, that you might have a package price for listeners. That would be so nice. Please tell me how I can get it." Well, Ida, there was a package price, and I've redone it now for anyone who listens to this episode. So go to theeiffeltower.com/secrets, and you can get the book, the 2 books. So Kylie the Crocodile, Paris on Air, and I'm throwing in my audio book, all for €50. Now, we're going to have to post them separately, so I can't go much of a softer price, a soft American Library price, as you requested in your email. That's the best I can do. €50, I think that's a pretty good deal. Go and check it out. It's on the link. But the reason I read this email out rather than just respond to you, Ida, is because you did what so many people have done when they send in messages to this show. You put in your email address wrong. So when I responded, and you wouldn't believe how many people did this for the Kickstarter, when I responded, it just bounced back. And I tried to guess what you did wrong, it bounced back again. There's still about 10 of you out there who I haven't got your postal address for Kylie the Crocodile because you gave probably your wrong email address. So if you don't remember leaving a postal note, go on the Kickstarter and do it, because I just have no way of reaching 10 of you. You bought a book, I just can't get it to you. Next email. Thank you, Ida, for that one. The next one is from Judy Ruck, who says, Oliver, she's in a bit of a quandary here. She says, "Bonjour, Oliver. I watched your Patreon video with Paul from Peloton walking through the Place des Vosges." Oh, that was a nice walk. "And your stop at the secret rose garden." Oh, there's another secret that I didn't put in this one. But the secret rose garden is probably my 6th secret. Not quite as much of a favorite for me as the Marais one. But she says, "I felt as though I was walking along beside the both of you. A quick question though. Paul mentioned the name of a falafel cafe and its location that was more or less around the corner from where you were standing. I'm trying my darndest, but I can't make out the name of the place. Is he saying Biznon or Pitzman or something similar?" She just can't figure it out. I'll tell you in a sec. I can't imagine what you and Lena must be going through at this very moment. Please stay safe, stay well. Thank you for everything you do. From Judy Ruck. Well, thank you, Judy. We are staying safe. Don't worry about us. But to put your mind at ease, it's not Biznon and it's not Pitzman. It's Miznon. Miznon. Or if you're American, Miznon. It's in the 4th arrondissement and quite easy to find. Miznon. Thanks for the email though, Judy. That made me smile. And one more from Rebecca. A few kind words. She says, "Hi, Oliver and Lena. Your site is such a balm, especially during this time when travel to Paris is not possible for most of us in the USA. I became a member recently." Woo! Thanks, Rebecca. "And I loved a quick look at your Paris guide, but now I can't find it again. Could you send me the link? I'm daydreaming about my next visit. Thanks in advance. Hope you're well. Looking forward to receive Kylie." Woohoo! From Rebecca in San Francisco. So obviously I answered Rebecca privately. She left a correct email, but I wanted to address what she said there because I took a big step back and looked at Patreon, the member page, and I realized it's confusing. If you've never checked it out, or even if you are a member, the problem with it is every time I post something new, all the other 200 posts get pushed further down. So if you sign up today, it was quite hard to find the guide. or it's quite hard to find my total audiobook package. You have to just scroll forever. So what I did is I looked at it with these fresh eyes, and I put sort of little posts or sticky tags on everything that was, that I could round up. So now when you go on the main page and you sign up, at the very top, it says, here's my audiobook. Or I think it just says audiobook. It says scrolls. It says Paris Guide. You can't miss it. So sign in, look at the top, and you just click, and it'll take you exactly where you need to go. Oh yeah, and I also made a welcome pack. So for anyone who signs up new, it's got all the things like my arrondissement guides, my PDF guides, the best videos I ever did, for members, and the audio book. It's all there in a little welcome pack. And I made it at the end of October, but I didn't want to talk about it because I didn't want anyone to sign up at the end of the month and pay for a month that they only get a day for. So now I'm talking about it. We're in the early November. Sign up now, get the full month, and get all the extras. Patreon.com/The Earful Tower. That's the last I'm going to say about it. Thank you, everyone, for listening to my secrets, and I hope you learned something. I'll be back on Monday with another episode, and I hope wherever you are, you have a lovely week. Merci. Au revoir.